This video is important. Remember that they're changing my voice. So why did this happen, right? Why did they kill these two Indian females? Hopefully this video gets to the family. It has to do with the governing class being jealous of me. Just like the Bible centers around Christ as a character in the story, centers around me, the occult centers around me. Now there's other characters in the story, right? There's Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, there's Moses, there's Joseph, there's John the Baptist, Stephen the Martyr, on and on and on and on and on, right? But the main central idea is Christ. So if you're going to describe Christianity, you'd have to describe it in terms of Christ first and foremost. So if you want to understand why these occultists use technology to kill your children, who were from, the greater Silicon Valley, what have you, right? Fremont, San Jose, these tech centers where a lot of people who work in the IT sector live, you have to understand that idea. So I put on the screen for you their Jewish false depiction of Horus. Just like they have a false depiction of Christ, which is like an Anglo-Nordic sort of Jewish-ish LGBT kind of fairy depiction, and in all its variations, they have false depictions of various ideas, including Egyptian ideas, Hindu, Canaanite, Mesopotamian, you name it, right? Greek, Roman. So they don't even get their Greek and Roman stuff right here. Now, the people doing this, one way to describe them is that they're neo-pagans, right? They're people who have some kind of ulterior agenda. They lie about, how religion used to be, and they do it in their own sort of way. And so when you look at the idea of Project Mockingbird, it's for the governing class, right? Mockingbird, mock king bird. And then what's the king bird? It's the falcon. Horus is symbolized by the falcon. They also say the hawk. And the hawk in the Bible and Job spreads its wings by the wisdom of God. So you have the birds that are good in the Bible, and you have unclean birds in the Bible. The great owl, the desert owl, the screech owl, they're said to be unclean birds, and certain pagans, connect them to Lilith and so on and so forth. And Lilith is a play on words for ill-hit, MK Ultra. That mind control program is called Ram Scrambled. And Ram goes back to Mars. Mars' name scrambled is Rams. And Mars is a Roman deity where we get the word martial arts, but I do not do the arts of Mars. I do divine martial arts. So that's just mere etymology of the English word. And Mars' Greek counterpart is Aries, and Aries is symbolized by the ram. So you see there's these connections that are very solid here. So the people who are doing this are a mix of sort of arrogant Lex Luthor types, arrogant Freemason types, arrogant English royals, and kind of, Michael Aquino types, Anton LaVey, these kind of grimy Satanists, Aleister Crowley. Okay, there's lots of these people out there. Look at rock and roll, for example. It's this massive culture that's derived from Satanism and the occult, right? Rock and roll is said to be what happens when the spirit of the devil comes into somebody. They're said to rock and roll, like rocking back and forth, okay, as opposed to a martial art kind of dance, a kind of rock, okay, and also that martial art, the monotheistic version of it being connected to God, who's said to be the rock of Israel, right? Israel, not the Jews in this world that they're superimposing themselves, right? The word imposter is a play on words for I'm, and the second word is poster. It's like the word friend is a play on words for fry and hello, hell-o, and the word help, right, is a play on words for hell and the letter P. And Hel is also a deity in Nordic mythology. So there's all kinds of connections that go on and on and on. But in a nutshell, why your daughters were killed is because they're mocking me and they're evil. That's why I read those scriptures for you. Okay? So who is Horus compared to Kali? Now pay close attention. This will help you understand. Especially if you're Indian, you'll probably appreciate this explanation more than a lot of other people. So Kali rides a lion sometimes, a tiger, and they got this from the ancient kind of worship of deities that would accompany lions and tigers and cats and panthers and so on and so forth. Okay? And so, in a nutshell, martial artists have martial art animals, right? It's the 5 animal styles of Kung Fu. You have the tiger, you have the panther, you have the dragon, you have the crane, okay? And you have the snake. And so the dragon, the snake in Christianity are evil symbols, what have you. You have the tiger from Kali, the tiger from, Dionysus also said to ride a tiger. So Dionysus is connected to Kali for various reasons. One is they both ride a large cat. Dionysus is known to ride a panther or a tiger. Kali is known to ride a tiger or a lion. And you have the Lion of Judah in the Bible, and you have the African martial art societies. The most pronounced of them perhaps were the leopard societies. And that goes back to the Black Panther in popular culture, which also connects to Bastet and Sekhmet, whose name is a play on words for seek, mate. And that's a whole long explanation for another day here. Okay, now Dionysus is said to be a young Zeus, and he's said to be the counterpart of Osiris. This is the Setian cults trying to superimpose themselves on the idea of a chosen bloodline. Because, Set in Egyptian mythology, in the Osirian myths, right, is said to kill Osiris and try to replace him. And he is immortal with Isis. In some versions, he rapes Isis, imprisons her, what have you. And there's this, Horus is the avenger in the Osirian myths, and otherwise, really, is a deity of justice. The idea of God's son. I hate the word deity, but it's the idea of God's actual son, and there's people who pretend to be me, right? And so he's seeking vengeance. I'm seeking vengeance. Where you Captain America, the Avenger. Superman is superimposed on Horus as well. Superman, right? Virtue means man. Super virtue, right? And so, Zeus is an attempt for other groups of people who are not chosen by God to pretend that they're chosen. And whenever, a rich group of people replaces another one in Greece or Rome in history, we see that they're trying to say that they're chosen, and the cults are falling in line with them, and so on and so forth. So you have different statues. That's why there's the variation in the statues. They represent different families that are saying that they're chosen at the time. The statue and the state of being, okay, and statutory rape and pederasty. That's a story for another day there, but there's connections there. And the genius of the statue, the quote-unquote genius of the statue, is said to be a serpent-like deity. Look it up. You'll see that I'm right there. I'm right about the whole thing. I don't lie. Now, Zeus's counterpart is Set, that overkills that. And Dionysus is a young Zeus, and Dionysus is said to be Osiris's counterpart, as is Hades, who's said to be Zeus's alter ego, and in some versions is Zeus's brother, like Poseidon. Okay, who's a deity of the oceans and earthquakes and so on and so forth. Hades, a deity of the underworld and the riches under the earth and so on and so forth. Okay. So these people are mocking God, and they're jealous, and they're part of a long history of people who were jealous. They consider that their heritage, their cult traditions, their culture, what they're cultivating. Okay. So the Bible talks about the vineyard of the Lord. It's what is being cultivated, what fruits are being bore. And so Dionysus is a deity of satanic harvest, of grapes, of wine, of religious ecstasy, of ritual madness, of the theater. Look it up. All these things are on record. And so the grapes can represent blood, and he's a deity of mocking God. He's a chthonic deity, an underworld deity, a deity of chaos. So you see all these connections with, with Kali, who is said to lick blood of that one demon. And the grapes in the Bible can stand for the blood that was shed by Christ to save humanity. So it's a mockery. Dionysian cults are mockers who are mocking the idea of the Royal African Falcon Martial Art Order fighting to the death for God and for humanity, to bring them to God, what have you. So your daughters were killed by these cultists because they're very sick and immature people who like to rape kids and rape women and harass people and convince people to be dumb enough to fall. And that's what Hermes is about, where we get the word hermaphrodite. Hermes and Aphrodite. Hermaphrodite is where you get the word hermaphrodite. Okay, Hermes is counterpart is Mercury. A root term for the word Mercury is mark, right? Merc and mark. And market, right? The mark of the beast. The marks in school, the boundaries, right? The path. And Mercury, aka Hermes, is a deity of guiding souls into the underworld. So it's part of the process in Western culture of fooling you. And Zeus changes form, right, and rapes people in mythology, right? The rape of Europa, of fooling people. And Europe extends like into Asia. And so Alexander the Great went to India, as the story goes, and they brought these cults there. And that's part of where Dionysus is connected to Kali. Okay, I went way over time here. I'm really scrambling to make these videos for you. I have other things I have to do. But I wanted to make sure that something about this case really stayed with me, and I just decided to start making a lot of videos about this to put it in perspective. I'm able to speak a little more clearly right now because I'm outside in the car. Sometimes there's more fresh air. I really want you to understand the idea of these people being mockers, And me being right to be angry, right? Righteous indignation, moral outrage. I'm right to be angry. I shouldn't be like David Carradine in Kung Fu the Legend, where he's all super calm. Matrix without saying Mr. Anderson. That's all rubbish. Okay? Now, it's even the word Matrix has the word tricks in it. And they say silly rabbit, tricks are for kids. They connect all these popular cultures, ideas. Sometimes it's extremely corny. And that's how they think. They're these extremely corny idiots, like a cartoon character, right? Like a cartoon demon, like a cartoon Dracula. And Dracula connects this as well with the coffin, and there's parallels to that, and the sarcophagus, and the Egyptian burials, and so on and so forth. So, in a nutshell, these people are very deranged, very sick, sexually immoral dogs. These spoiled rich brats, and they killed your daughters because they're jealous that they look more attractive than their daughters and the females in their family. It's where you get this mirror, mirror on the wall thing from, what was it, Snow White or whatever. Okay, they're very sick people, and they like to try to mock people whether they get a rise out of them or not. It's part of their rituals. And I've checked, these people harass me all the time. Sometimes we had moments where I got it, and I checked them. I hopped out the car on them, and I checked them, forced them to concede back in California. I've confronted these people. I can't confront them at every turn, but I've put them in their place. I won my martial art challenge. They resorted to fuming me and poisoning me. They put all their heads together, couldn't beat me. I utterly embarrassed them in front of their cults. Many of them have died over the course of my life. Hundreds of thousands of them have died and went straight to hell, knowing that they lost the match against me. Okay, they're utterly humiliated. Their cults are humiliated. I trampled them in their spirits. Okay, they brought down the spirits of every nation, including America. They're utterly disgraced. Americans hate them. Europeans hate them. But they're following them because they don't have the heart to do the right thing, right? The Lord weighs the heart in the Bible. Okay, the heart is weighed in Egyptian mythology. Right, heart, martial art. They don't have the heart to do the right thing, and so it brought down their spirits, right? What they fight for, spear and spirit. Okay, spearhead, tip of the spear, okay, what have you. And the word spear in Western culture